I'm honored to be here today, joined by Mike Salet, VP of Media at Danone. My name is Max Leibson. I'm a VP of Sales over at Teads. I've actually been at Teads for roughly 8 years now. For those of you who don't know what Teads is, we do a lot of things, but probably most notably, we are the pioneers of outstream video. And the simple definition for outstream video is video advertising that lives outside the stream of video content. So we'll essentially help publishers monetize their text-based and editorial-based environments where they didn't have video content before, and in return, we can deliver pretty eye-catching, attention-grabbing video and high-impact display formats with scale and efficiency. But enough about me, enough about Teads. Wanted to kind of start out by thanking brand innovators. Really, really compelling content. Some of the biggest brands, best marketers in the world. So just honored to be up here to talk today with Mike. Mike, pretty great career thus far. You spent some time at Amazon. You spent some time at Nestle. And I just kind of wanted to start out at Danone now, settle a score once and for all. The Danone versus Danone debate. Which is it and why? We'd all love to know.
Well, sure. Well, first, let me say I've been catfished. I was supposed to be on a moderated discussion with Kroger, but that's what we get for being so good at replanning and shifting our budgets all year long on our ad sales team. So thanks for stepping in. Yes, it's Danone, and it goes back to the founder's son's nickname, like over 100 years ago. And so it's Danone, and in Europe, as you know from talking with our colleagues there, they still love to say Danone. Much more musical, but Danone is a corporate brand, and Danone is one of our yogurt brands.
Okay. We're all clear. So just be careful when you go and ask for just Danone budget. You're missing out on the whole portfolio to all the vendors in the room. Okay, cool. So wanted to kind of pivot into kind of your role, your day-to-day. Take us through a day in the life of Mike Salet.
Sure. So yeah, we're not being a corporate brand cop calling Danone versus Danone. I get to oversee our media team, which also includes sponsorships and outbound licensing. We're really focused on driving growth for the brand, so our team splits its focus on half the time supporting awesome brands in our portfolio, like Silk. Check out our Instacart brand page. Check out International Delight if you're a Coffee Nation fan on TikTok. We've got Horizon Organic, Happy Family for all the moms in the crowd. Oikos.
Dads.
And dads, yeah. Oikos, Activia, tons of great brands, including Evian. So we are half the time focused on driving those brands' plans through advertising, and also the other half the time we're focused on what we say our portfolio or enterprise initiatives to maximize the impact of those investments behind those brands. So that includes things such as managing our agency, which is Wavemaker. It's managing the ad tech stack. It's managing all of the initiatives that we say are enterprise, including investing more in diverse publishers, and that's both in the media placement side as well as on the creator side. It's multicultural marketing. We've done a lot more to improve our Hispanic marketing capabilities. Also, a holistic video approach and strategy has been implemented and driven a lot more incremental reach. And so those are some of the big areas that we've been focused on, including retail media.
Gotcha. So you wear a lot of hats, fair to say.
We get to cover the whole portfolio. That's part of the fun.
Yeah, and you need to kind of pull in all of those factors when you consider, obviously, over the last 2 years, consumer behaviors have changed quite a bit, right? That's pretty obvious. But I was just wondering, how has media planning evolved to kind of meet the needs of that shifting kind of consumer? And then, in particular, I'm interested to hear about the rise of the digital shelf and how kind of loyalists play into more of an impulse purchase, world that has moved to bulk buying and things like that.
Yeah, I think going back to 2020, the business saw a huge surge in demand for the products, a lot of consumers stocking up, and we continued to see elevated search demand trends, as well as a huge shift in consumers going from traditional or linear TV to streaming. And I think we just saw some research this week from Pew and Nielsen showing, I think in the last week of December, Americans watched over 180 million minutes of TV in a week. It's just staggering the amount of changes and shifts that we've seen. I think from our perspective, we did a few things. We got a lot closer to some of our counterparts in e-com and shopper marketing to make sure that we've moved up our planning cycle to be a little bit closer with theirs. We've integrated them more into some of the upfront planning processes that we're all going through right now. We've also seen more integration happen with some of these different touch points, which might have historically been viewed as upper funnel or brand versus lower funnel and e-commerce or shopper tactics. So those are some of the key things that we've started to bring together in the more accelerated planning process today.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good segue because the lines really between brand and shopper marketing are really starting to blur and really blend together as the shopper's experience starts to evolve as well and becomes more seamless. So how is Danone structured to kind of break down some of those silos and making sure that the fluidity and the communication is keeping pace with the rapid changing consumer?
Yeah, so I think we sit in a marketing center and act as a hub to many spokes in terms of our different brand teams that we mentioned. We've got quite a few in beverages, some in the plant-based space, and some in the yogurt space. And then we also collaborate with our e-commerce team and our shopper marketing team, and it varies really by some of our retail customers. So it depends on their cycle, depends on that account team structure. Like in one case, we have somebody who's an all-star in the shopper marketing role. She really plays the role of the quarterback, brings in the e-com team, brings in the media team, and helps us through these key planning events, right? So if it's coming into our national sales meeting, what does a holistic plan look like from screen to shelf? If it's going out to those customer roadshow meetings, what are the stories that we need to tell? And then when it comes to actual implementation of those plans, we're really looking at the tactical level for things that we can do. Like when we've partnered with some retailers who've gotten into the OTT space, we love to take those segments and convert them into retargeting pools for lower funnel messaging that can be executed by a different team, for example, and accelerate more sales. So
yeah, and making sure that you're kind of continuing through the line, but also recognizing that we talk a lot about streaming. I think over the last 2 days, I'm just curious. What is Danone's kind of streaming strategy? And then what do you think about kind of the convergence of that data and really how it uh, is more of an upper funnel metric usually, but how does it play into kind of the lower funnel conversations that you have?
yeah, I mean, going back to 2020 when we saw the disruptions, from COVID, and we certainly saw an acceleration in the shift of consumers moving more towards streaming platforms, and we followed suit. We're going where the consumer is. She's watching on average over 32 hours of video a week, which is mind blowing. Makes it hard to go back into the office, I imagine. But no, it's a key place where we've decided to shift a lot of our video investment. And I think, moreover, one of the key things we did in thinking back in that moment of time when we were asked and charged by our CMO to think about what are the lasting trends that we really need to plan for and capitalize on, we did identify that shift as a key one that would operationally require us to consolidate the way we buy and to consolidate the ad tech behind it. And we weren't expecting an increase in budgets. I mean, again, we've seen in the headlines, all of us, right, supply chain disruption, which might not mean you see as many products on the shelf. It might mean there's a lot more inflation that's also got to be offset. So not increasing the budget was a key part of this. And so what we analyzed and did was show that if we consolidated, we were able to reach more audiences for the same budget. And we've seen value created in upwards of over 20% in terms of that incremental media reach from that. And so the streaming partners are able to be accessed now through our holistic buying setup, which we've done through Google. So that's been a huge game changer for us. And now it's actually coming to the value is really materializing right now. So.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And when you bring up incrementality, and I think one of the key components of incrementality is making sure you're eliminating waste. and offsetting some of those diminishing returns with media that is in view and is grabbing attention, and creates a value exchange with the consumer, right? So we were talking about this a little bit earlier before the session, but just curious, what is Danone doing around this new kind of currency that's being formed in the industry today around attention? And to that point, I hear a lot of clients talk about, okay, great, call me old-fashioned. If it's in view and it's grabbing attention, it'll work more times than not if the content is compelling. But when we talk about attention, how does that relate to sales? How do we sell the yogurt with attention?
Yeah, it's awesome that you bring it up. I think the attention players in the space have started to generate more awareness, right? You've got the Attention Council, you've got really great leaders in the space like Mark Goldman from Adelaide, Jan Liu from T-Vision, and several others who've really helped champion this notion. And we were fortunate to actually meet Mark as a moderator here several years ago and take the plunge and pilot with him. And we actually found that his company at the time, Parsec, now Adelaide, was the top performer on our digital plan. And we have done some more testing with Mark today at Adelaide, and one of the things that was really exciting for us is we are so focused on going beyond the media KPIs. We must demonstrate the impact we have on the business KPIs. Did we drive household penetration lift? Did we increase sales? Did we drive trial? Did we accelerate velocity, so on and so forth? And I think with Adelaide, we partnered with a third-party vendor to measure the correlation of more attentive units and sales, and we saw that sales lift come through. So that was a pilot, and we've done a few other pilots in the attention space, and we're a consumer goods company, not an airline, so we got to move from needing pilots to actually operationalizing and driving the sales. So we're now in the process of implementing a lot of these changes to our buys, and I think it's really important that we focus more on the effectiveness and the quality to maximize every dollar in our budgets.
Yeah, and quality is one of those kind of ambiguous words like premium. It's really when you are kind of selling goods, it is kind of about efficiency, but you certainly don't want to race to the bottom to the point where you're running on these websites that were solely created to house ads, and then you get there and you're like, what is this?
Yeah, you have to look below the hood there. I mean, there could be some really great stats that you see in your platform or your campaign report, but you'll find that some of those are really made for advertising. When you look at it from a consumer perspective, it's not very user-friendly. There's not really great content on there, and then you might actually see a lack of separation with some of the ads, which is not great from a brand perspective. So, I think being able to focus more on the effectiveness through the attention units is a key way to offset some of that.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about attention, aligning with the right content as well, if you're getting put on these kind of clickbody type of sites or clickbaity sites, there's no real content on the page. So how is Danone, trying to align with the right type of content today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. I mean, it depends really on some of the partners that we're working with and what the brand's objectives and campaigns are. I mean, I think we're finding ourselves more and more focused on this discussion as we're getting into the upfront and collaborating more with our agency on making that a key part of the discussion. Like we mentioned earlier, one of our key initiatives across the enterprise is to increase our media investments into minority and women-owned publishers. And we don't want to just think about, hey, we're putting more money in through the pipes programmatically, or we're just placing it through a direct deal. We're asking those questions about what are the creator opportunities, who are those diverse voices that we really want to partner with that align with the brand and what the campaign objectives are and the creative, and how can we lean in more to that to make a more holistic campaign that really resonates with their audiences and their consumers. So that's just one example of how we're starting to approach content together with the media placements, which are, for many of us, this is the key month where we start thinking about our biggest budget going to work over the summer.
Right. And I think that's kind of advertising responsibly. And when you do work for a big brand and there's a lot of budget behind it, it is on all of us to make sure that we are doing everything that we can and being as inclusive as we can with our media buys, with our creatives, with our messaging. So kind of shifting a little bit into your expertise, as I wanted to know, how do you see like media advertising investments really evolve as the e-commerce trends continue to grow? I think we've seen really explosive growth over the last 2 years. And is that something that's here to stay? Is that something that will tail off?
Yeah, it's also. I was actually just talking to an old friend who's here, and we were just kind of laughing. The retailers came to us not that long ago for their upfront commitments, and each of them had some staggering dollar tags, and we were just like, well, "That's a big input you're asking for, 10, 20 million. What's the output?" I think what are we going to get back from that is the question that we have there, and not just in terms of media, but are there things that larger investment or commitment can do to create a more holistic relationship? Are there more displays that could get incorporated? Are there some costs that could get offset on the retail P&L? There's a lot more to the relationship now with the retailers because many of them have developed media capabilities, and I think there's more equity, there's more balance in the relationships when you bring in the advertising teams and you bring in those media partners. We've seen a huge convergence of those retailers and the media partners in offering new capabilities, and that's where one of the areas where we're really excited to capitalize on. And I think about in Q4 of 2020, Kroger had announced a partnership with Roku. So you suddenly take, a huge database of loyalty card shoppers, which are like 90% of their, audience, and you take Roku, a huge leader in the streaming space. These are two mega trends going on due to the pandemic that have been accelerated. And we went all in on an opportunity to pilot reaching, those shoppers while they're watching content in the streaming environment. And we learned a lot of really awesome things there. I mean, there was obviously a red herring of just high ROAS, but that was not necessarily what we were looking for. We dug in deeper and saw at the consumer segment or the insight of the audience level that it was lapsed brand buyers or it was people who are new to the category that were actually driving the household penetration lift. That was the business objective we were truly trying to get through. So we made some significant shifts in how we went to market going forward with some of those same plans to make sure we weren't just chasing high ROAS, we weren't just auto-optimizing towards that, we were chasing the segments that drove us that high household penetration lift. We just came off of an awesome launch of our Silk master brand page at Instacart, and that's being fed with ads that we're running on Meta. We also just came off of an awesome alpha pilot with a last miler who launched some sponsored products on their page for CPG clients to accelerate sales in C-store and grocery. And we're really psyched to see the average daily sales increase by over 30% a day. We're really psyched to see our share points go up by 4. And these are really scrappy tests. We really want to lean into them. We know there's going to be some issues or challenges along the way. We manage some of those expectations. We'll learn from them, and then we scale it out. And I think we will definitely continue to see these two mega trends continue, and we'll look to find more ways to bring the two together.
Yeah, and when you said a challenge in there, I immediately thought of measurement because I think that is another theme that we've been hearing throughout the conference. But it seems like you have a lot of data and you're running a lot of tests, and that there's real test and learn culture, which is great. How do you kind of centralize all of that data and reconcile to kind of inform your future business decisions?
Yeah, I think it's still a key part of our measurement approach, which is the MMM. And I just saw in the news this week also. I mean, some of the streaming partners are announcing deals with some of the big measurement partners, like Analytic Partners, which is who we use, Nielsen, so on and so forth. I think providing more of that impression level data and some additional data into those models is really essential for partners and to truly be on the consideration set at the brand decision-making level. There's a lot of opportunity. Budget is still constrained, so you have to think about how am I going to optimize that budget to the highest possible returns. And if your brand or your publisher is not in that mix, it's hard to get over that when it comes time to looking at final plans. So that's number one. I think on other partners, we're really trying to push more for looking at the incrementality of the audience reach. We're trying to look at, with some of the retail partners, what does incrementality look like beyond just the media plans, and getting minimum spend-based sales and brand lift studies. Those things are important, but is there incrementality that shows, hey, these campaigns that are online, are they driving in-store sales as well? Where? That's still a big opportunity for the industry to help educate and influence real executive leaders who want to see that incremental impact that you're driving in-store sales to, not just online sales. Or is there something that you can do at shelf to give us more display if we're going to be investing more, especially if it was a pilot. And some partners have leaned forward and done some great stuff. We had some non-working savings that we identified last year. Our team moved super fast to put it to work in a test with a partner who said, this is important for us. It was a Hispanic marketing test, and they said, we'll match you 1 for 1. And it was less than a couple $100,000 to test overall, but that made a difference. It gave us the data that we needed to help build the story for that particular brand, that we need to go after this Hispanic audience more with our brand because it's resonating with them. The product is really is something that they're interested in, and it became one of several actual proven case studies that built the street credibility we needed to tell a broader narrative to the rest of the organization that introducing your brand to the Hispanic audience, it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't cost a fortune to get started, but the impact was huge. And we've since gone on to demonstrate other partners that wouldn't typically be on their plans were the highest performers from a net sales ROI perspective in their MMMs. That was kind of the street credibility that allowed us to roll this vision out more widely to the organization, to find audiences that we're not always going to be reaching through the general market approach and through some of the standard creative that we're building. So.
Yeah, I love that vendor who put their money where their mouth is and put up the 1-to-1 for the proof of concept. So kudos to them. And as you see, when you come through on those tests, it obviously has continued a larger partnership. So that's great to hear. I wanted to revisit kind of retail media networks as a whole because I think a lot have popped up over the last couple of years. Certainly in the last year or so, I know a bunch more. Just your POV on retail media networks. Are they going to continue to pop up? Are they going to slowly start to consolidate? What's your vision on that?
Yeah, I'm just pleased that we're seeing more of the capabilities develop there that allow us to partner with them at scale and to to capitalize on that convergence that we talked about before, where the consumers are spending a lot more time, whether it's in social, whether it's streaming audio, streaming video, and to link that back to the sales experience and to have the data throughout the whole journey to be able to optimize. And that's really exciting for us. And we're partnering with those folks. We're seeing some of them, grow their networks through, through more partnerships with the retailers. And I think it's an important narrative for us to be able to influence and inform, the big decision makers that these are partners that are operating at scale and that they're reaching the majority of the households that we are. And again, to be able to operate quickly and show those incremental reach or share gains possible there is where we're focused right now.
Yeah, and knowing your audience is obviously makes it really easy to define where you're going to put those dollars, right? Because you obviously want to align with where your shoppers are and knowing your customer. One more closing question for you, and then we'll hit some questions at the end. What is one piece of advice you'd offer to a brand that's kind of just getting started in the media planning and buying space around retail data?
Awesome. Hard to come up with just one. I think you've got to know it to future-proof your brand and your career. And I think many brand marketers are curious learners. Many have their MBAs. They rotate through different brands. They get expertise in innovation and building products. They get expertise in positioning. They get expertise in promotion and everything that goes on the commercial side of the house. And I think e-com and retail media affects all of those components. So for product developers or innovators, they need to know what's the weight, how's that going to impact the price on some of these partners that we're building, or do I need a variety pack to penetrate this new audience on this one retailer? And so I think it's important that they lean in, go in curious, learn, and come to brand innovative events and hear from their peers. I think they really need that to dispel the myth that e-com and e-retail is just a sales channel and a small one at that. It's not true. It also drives a huge amount of in-store sales or omni-channel sales. And then same thing with retail media. I think there's still a misperception that it's just placements on a retailer or grocer's O&O, and it's not. I mean, you have to think about that audience that's there, and that's a known audience, and to be able to reach them deterministically across all those beautiful media touch points, whether they're streaming audio, video, reading content, or engaging on social media. That's a key part of the narrative, and I don't think that's always really well known. So I think they need to understand that omni-channel sales are coming through this, and also that we're able to reach audiences omni-channel from a media perspective, and to lean into those test and learn opportunities, because it will balance out that relationship a little bit more. It's not just a retail customer anymore. It's you as the brand advertiser are also a customer, and I think that creates more collaboration.
Yeah, great. Completely agree. All right, cool. So we have a couple minutes left. If we want to flip it up for any questions for Mike.
Someone has a question, or you really want this?
We covered it all.
Right. I mean, you guys did. I mean, all kidding aside, even though they're dying for that food that's been sitting out for a really long time. I mean, you guys did cover a ton, so that's a good thing. But any questions? Since we have a brand person up here, it's got to be one. There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if that was more of a surprise or more validation. I mean, we've seen the flexitarian diet really accelerate. I think naturally during the pandemic, people became a lot more health conscious and focused on nutrition and diet. And
Did you say flexitarian?
yes, so
Can you break that down for us? Because I don't know.
oh sure. So I mean, like most, there's a lot of people who might eat dairy, and then there's a lot of people who might not. And I think we've seen people interested in crossing over to understand more of the plant-based diet. And so I think many consumers have either left just that familiar world of dairy to experiment and taste a lot of these other products. And I think they've been pleasantly surprised by the excellent product qualities that are there. I mean, take, for example, Silk, which just launched Next Milk, and that's a dairy-like milk. And it's amazing. It's definitely going to help consumers get over that fear that plant-based may not be, the quality, the familiar experience that they're looking for from a dairy-based product. But I think we're pleasantly surprised to see those insights pay off and that consumers continue going in that direction.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go a different way with it. Just really bold people who are lactose intolerant trying dairy. Anyway, anybody else? Any other questions up top?
Yeah, the budget on the CPG side can be confusing, and I think our shopper marketing team would be happy to hear. We'll reinforce for CPG ad sales folks to always go to shopper marketing because they really do play that central quarterback in bringing together funds across the portfolio for that particular retailer or that network, but also from e-commerce and from upper funnel or media teams. So I think they're your first primary point of contact. But yeah, some of the investment has to go through trade, and some goes through the advertising and promotion budgets, depending on the entities into that retailer. And we also use that as a great opportunity to showcase some of the new innovations in the retail media space. I mean, several years ago when Amazon launched audio ads and they launched OTT, we went around to the business saying, you're not just going to buy that with your low funnel media. That's a media partner that we would compare and position with a YouTube or with Pandora and Spotify. And that just mindset of where you position some of those channels or those touch points was really important to help our brand teams understand where the dollars flow. So to your other question, just about the retail networks and where some of that funding is coming from in terms of where we're shifting in the other mix or the channel. I think that we are seeing the effects of some linear declines driving more of our budget shifts into the streaming partners, and then we're also seeing I think some more diversification specifically within social. I mean, in the past we had a lot of investment with Meta, frankly, and I think just looking at the consumer insights and where our audiences are spending their time, we needed to be mindful of that and show up in other places, and especially put the brands in cultural moments that were super relevant for them. So Evian, for example, had an awesome partnership with Dua Lipa. She got nominated for the Grammys. We weren't just going to shift money, from what we had in the plan to a spot on CBS at the time. We had to think about what's a better way to leverage that budget shift, which was unplanned, and try to engage with the consumers and the fans in that moment. So we did a buy on Twitter. We had a huge part of that conversation. for a big night for her. So that was something that was really important for us. I think it really does depend, but I hope that answers your question.
We got a last question. Did you have one? I love how we've gone from no questions to like two awesome, like really complex questions. Just for the record.
And the
just
most
saying.
politically
And
charged
so
one.
I thank you for your for your food-based question.
Oh, and we're out of time.
started.
Sorry. Okay.
Exactly.
That's what I'm here for.
Take
Right?
it
Yeah.
away.
No, I mean, the short answer was we built a business case. We showed everybody what the current situation was. We really identified the problems inherent with that, whether they were operational challenges, or just underperformance in certain areas. Once we identified all those problems, we then turned the business case into what's the opportunity, and we really went through great assumptions and forecasting the value of if we consolidated these partners, this is the savings that we would realize that we would need to reinvest back into working media. And we went through that over and over again through a variety of assumptions, and we were able to project out what the value creation was based on our media budgets. And we went ahead and influenced folks by having those one-on-one sessions or those presentations or those discussions, socializing the vision and the strategy and getting the buy-in from people. And once we got the alignment from people, and I'll say our leadership is all about empowering us to move and make the decisions. They know we'll make informed risk decisions, and we did it. And we were really psyched to see the results. We literally just got some Q1 results back from that consolidation that we did just on the video side last year to affect going to market on the upfront. And we reached over, I think it was over 500,000 new incremental users. We generated over 500K in incremental value. We delivered over 25 million new impressions. That's really, really powerful. Now we have those actuals back to confirm what the business case forecast was. And now we'll continue to see a lot more momentum for these types of business cases.